Yeah. Yeah.
Go on,
Okay.
sorry. Continue, Jim. Sorry, what were you
We can edit the
saying?
beginning, Jim, so we can edit, or Martin
Yeah,
can
don't worry.
edit the beginning.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, when you do your thing, I notice it's just on voice anyway, so it doesn't matter how we look or dressed or.
We actually do put this on YouTube.
Oh,
I
okay,
don't know if
right.
anybody watches it, but yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So don't
that's
don't worry
fine.
about that.
Okay, I would have had a haircut if you told me,
Yeah,
That's
or
fine.
worn a hat.
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, hello everyone, and welcome to the Constraints Collective podcast. Yeah, excited today. We've got a true practitioner, somebody that's working in the rugby union space, that's using research to really inform the practice. So we're really excited to sort of explore that, and we'll introduce Jim in a minute. But Ian, how are you? You
I'm very
good?
well, thank you. A bit sticky here at the moment, very humid. Expecting a thunderstorm within an hour or so, as per North
Yeah,
Queensland, sort of in the spring, summer. It's very
you're
hot,
looking very well.
very
You're
hot.
looking a bit. You're looking a bit bulky. You've been hitting the gym, Ian.
Yeah, been pretty good. It's the first time ever in my life I've been regularly at the gym since I retired. So
Yeah.
I've actually got some muscles that I've never had in my life. So it's quite nice.
You're looking very well. Yeah.
Thank you, mate.
And Jim, how are you doing? Really sort of grateful that you've given up your time, and we're really looking forward to having a chat with you, a top level rugby union practitioner. So yeah, how are you getting on? You okay?
Fine, thanks. Yep, I'm on a bit of a road trip at the moment, from Queensland down to Sydney. So at the time of speaking now, I'm in Sydney at the moment for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, nice. I'm not jealous at all. Yeah, as I'm sitting in a dreary autumn morning in Derby. Yeah, but anyway, yeah.
Fair
So
enough.
Jim, well, we'll get into the academic bit, but I know you were really keen to talk about how we're translating stuff into practice, and you've done it at a high level in your environment or working with high level athletes. But yeah, really sort of curious about your journey because I didn't realise Ian was telling me you spent a lot of time, or a lot, a real long time in the UK, I suppose, earning your stripes as a coach. So would you mind just sharing a bit about you and your history in sport and sort of what you're doing at
Yeah,
the minute? Is that okay?
of course. Yeah. I'm name's Jim McKay, and I was born and raised on the northern beaches of Sydney, Australia. Um, I guess off the field, I don't have my own immediate family, so my family and friends are really important to me, and and surfing is my favorite thing to do, and I like to keep active as well. Career wise, um, I've been coaching for 30 plus years, and it's ongoing. Um, International rugby coach, but I'm really proud of my journey, that I started at grassroots level. And I guess that's what shows that no matter how far back you start or come from, if you're determined, resilient enough, you can get there if that's something that you choose to do. Obviously, there's a lot of sacrifices in this, um, uh, breakthroughs and setbacks along the way, but it's an ongoing journey which it just never ends. Um, I I've been lucky enough to coach in England for 14 years, 15 years, sorry. Then I've had some experiences in Australia, then with Tonga, and also in Japan. So some unique, different backgrounds and environments there. And the other thing that I guess in reflection, I'm really grateful for that I've had a lot of different roles. So director of rugby, director of coaching, head coach, assistant coach, academy, but also youth. So there's some nice different experiences there, that where I've had different roles within different environments, and then at different levels as well. So
What got you into coaching, Jim, in the first place? What captured? Why did coaching grab you?
there's a wee story there. So I played rugby as an amateur in Sydney. I was fortunate enough to play first grade at a couple of clubs, actually. Moringa, Rod McQueen was our coach. So I played first grade there, really strong club. and we were club champions. And then through a friend of a friend, I ended up playing at Randwick, and Bob Dwyer was our coach. Guys like Alan Gaffney, some very, very good players there. I played first and second grade there, but that shaped my coaching career because both clubs are very different, but they were both very successful. So I got exposure to that there's not just one way. But then anyway, to answer your question, all the superstars, they were starting to go to Italy, particularly in France, and all these great opportunities. And I got an opportunity to go to England at a club called Stourbridge, just as a player coach, very much amateur thing, but just for the experience. So coming from the Insular Peninsula on the northern beaches, it really opened my eyes up to the rest of the world, and it taught me a different side of rugby as well, around the fellowship and then the enjoyment side of it. But the coaching there was kind of different to what I'd experienced. Not better or worse, but you don't know till you don't know what you don't know, I guess. But I'd been fortunate to have some good coaching experiences, and I couldn't help but just sort of trying to get involved and help. So that's how it started. So yeah,
some reasonable mentors in two World Cup winning coaches.
correct. And I'm still in touch with them guys.
Amazing.
They offer different things really, but yeah, they're good to speak with.
And Stourbridge is in the West Midlands.
Correct.
Yeah, Birmingham. And so what league were they in? Or the league started by then, or were they?
Only just, so we're going back a bit. So the other thing is that there's continuing that story is I came back and wanted to try and play for Australia. That was always my dream, but obviously I wasn't good enough and didn't get picked. And so then I had an opportunity to go to Norfolk, a club called Norwich, and then North Walsham. And that's where my coaching journey started, really. So yes, I didn't play for Australia, and I had the dream over there that came to me that I wanted to coach Australia. So that ended up taking 18 years, but I ended up getting there. But that's where my coaching started. So the first 4 years, 2 years in Norfolk, a lot of success, 2 years in Henley, a lot of success. And then the 5th year, not so much success. So that was a real setback, no job. What do I do? So, but we can talk about that as we go.
How soon after Woodward, because didn't Clive Woodward coached at Henley, didn't he? So
yes, he did. He was the 2 coaches before me. He
Right.
also coached at Manly in Sydney. So yeah, he adopted quite a lot of the Randwick philosophy.
Yeah.
I know this isn't a rugby podcast as per se, but he which you do, don't you? You go to different environments, which again I feel very privileged to go coach in England for that long. The sheer amount of games, you can pay your dues. First 4 years, I thought I wasn't making any mistakes. Everything was promotions and awards, and it was all great. And then it came crashing down. So you go, okay, what don't I know? And that really set a catalyst to pivotal time to know better, shall we say.
How would you describe your coaching at that time? Was it quite a traditional coaching approach, or I mean, I don't know what traditional was in Australia, to be fair.
Yeah.
So I only know exposed to rugby coaching in England.
I think my coaching then was I think typically you'll get coached how you're being coached when you start. You don't really know any other because you haven't really been exposed. And but I was lucky and fortunate where I had the 2 different playing and coaching philosophies of Maringo with Rod McQueen, and then at Randwick as well. None better or worse than the other, but just different, and they both had success. But then myself, just the belief that you can do things, and there's at the time it was you wanting to win, but improve players and make it enjoyable. And I think that's never ever left me at any level, any environment. So that's what I guess what I kind of installed at Norfolk, particularly where I was. I didn't care where they naively really where they'd been or what they were doing, but I say, okay, let's win. How are we going to do that? And let's enjoy it, and let's be positive and let's go. And it was probably through that really, creating that environment that we can do things. I was lucky enough there I could play as well, so I could kind of influence that way.
I think that's important. An old wily old rugby league coach once said to me, "Happy cattle produce more milk." And what he basically meant, I'm not sure the cattle analogy is the right one, but what he basically meant was you create the environment where people want to be there, and you'll get,
Yes.
you know, they really want to be there. There's not an external influence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, you'll just get more. There'll be more enjoyment, more attachment to that group of individuals. That what you're trying to achieve, and you just achieve so much more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can resonate with that, Jim. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to achieve something as part of a group, but you got to know where you're heading, and then you get some momentum and belief, and yeah, it's just wonderful, really, and seeing people improve.
How did it, after obviously working in first grade in Sydney around internationals with very high level coaches, and you get to Norfolk and maybe the quality of player is not quite at the level that you were used to. How did that impact the way that you coached, or the way that you know, what did you have to do differently, or if anything, or did it just do the same?
I think a few things. One of the things is there's two things. The first thing, it's all relative. So it's relative to where you're at. So you may not be as the skillful or better or fitter, but guess what? The other teams are similar as well. So it's kind of relative to where you're at.
Yeah.
All I found is the higher you go, there's less opportunities, I suppose, and the players are better. But again, it's relative. So the second thing is I found when I started that it was just me. You're the coach, and you got 30 or 40 players, or sometimes 50. You might have one guy helping you, so it's just you. So it's there's some pros and cons with that. So you have to be organised. But also the best thing about that, some wonderful stories at North Walsham where I empowered the players to be the leaders. So I worked out you got to take your time getting to know the club and what they're about, and you hear them in the bar and all this sort of stuff. But then you work out who does what, who are the influencers. That's at any place you go to at any level. But I empowered them. They all had their deficiencies. We had a tall guy called Rex. He was wonderful in the lineouts. Like, we know all our ball, loved lineouts. That's all he talked about. But he was allergic to contact, so he didn't tackle, he didn't do anything, but he was great at lineouts. We had a prop who was unreal at scrums, and he loved scrums. That's all he talked about and was important. And but you know, he used to walk from one scrum to the other type thing, you know. So I said, Scotty, you're in charge of scrums. And they chest puffed out, and guess what? They're on the field playing. And they took ownership of all that, and they helped training. And it was actually, I did that by default, really, because I was on my own. And you fast track 10, 15 years when you're working elite levels, and the coaches are, you know, you're coach led, but the best teams, they try and hand over to the players and empower, but sometimes it can take a while to get to that space. Whereas I was fortunate enough to experience that right at the start. And when I think back, it was just great.
Jim, how did you, let's say you had 40 players, how did you manage that? Just you and, I know you had a chap helping you, like, what would you do? Like, what would a gym session look like on a Thursday evening with 40 players?
Well, the first thing you got to work out is if it's harvesting season or not, because you're down about 15 up there if the tractors are going, the thing, and so all that, you never know. Again, you have to adapt all the time, because you never know how many's going to be there or not there, so straight away it taught you to be adaptive, really, to what's going on. And or the field, you mightn't be able to train on the field. The groundsman was like the hallowed turf often there. You couldn't, at a lot of the clubs, they don't let you on the field, you know.
Yeah.
It's raining. But so to answer your question, we just treat, and again, I notice that some of the leading teams now do it. I've got some friends coaching in Europe, and we talk about it, but you might have a group, split the group up into three, you might have one in the middle defending and the other two attacking, and just keep transitioning all the time. I know Stuart Lancaster at Leinster trained a lot like that with big groups. So just by default, really, it did stuff like that with games, but 3 groups, 1 rest, 2 work, or you could have just things like where they kept them moving. So you sort of, I think they use the word tactical periodization now, where you're doing skill, some decision making, and also fitness in the one thing. So a lot of my stuff always has been traditionally like game based. I mean, you can't really do a drill with 30 people standing around watching, but
Oh, you can.
yeah,
You
I
believe
see it
that?
all the time. Honestly, you can
yeah,
do
no
it.
problem. Yeah. But then when I got them players, that empowerment side of things. So to answer your question, we do our fitness with games. Sometimes I do the old school. We had an RAF guy there, but we do like little shuttles and that, half the group doing fitness and then come with me. But a lot of games,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
without realizing that, and just put the principles of how you want to play within them games. And that theme's always, it wasn't until I was about 15 years later, I did a bit of study, and you realize some of these things have names for them, but
Yeah.
for example, game based or constraints, etc. But yeah, that's how I started with a big group. And then, but when we'd want to go more specific, them guys that I mentioned, they could go with them players, and they'd run that for me. So it was good. It was good fun, actually. It taught me a lot of lessons.
Yeah, I always try to encourage the students that I used to work with at Sheffield Hallam, like, but certainly through the practical sessions that we used to run, I'm like, look, you can't have it too easy. Oh, I've planned for 8. You 3 stand over there while I run this session. And I used to
Yeah,
encourage them, go into a kids community club and just take what you think might be the most challenging group, because that is proper coach development. And
yeah,
think about what's happened, what can you do differently. And I used to coach a student team, Loughborough University, and
oh yeah,
we would have that on a Monday night, like 30, 40 players or whatever it would be. And we'd do the transition. So exactly what you said, you'd have 3 teams. So 1 attack, 1 defend, 1 waiting to transition.
yeah,
And you soon work out little ways, that coaching craft bit of what works, what doesn't work, how you can challenge, again, how you can put ownership onto the players to manage that as well. So yeah,
yeah,
I
terrific.
think it's a good challenge, and it is good coach development. Managing big groups is a definitely something you can develop. Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, on that, I hear what you're saying for sure. And on that note, been looking lately, when you might have your bank of activities that your players can get familiar with, and you get some familiarity, shall we say, with the language. And I think it's really good for coaches and yourself which I found when you get asked to do, say, a guest session somewhere, it could be different age group, different level ability, or it actually really, really makes you think, because your players can get used to how you work and the language and kind of get used to what you're doing. But the coach, to sharpen your tool, shall we say, to go and coach in a different team or club, this is a guest, as a one-off, you really got to put some thought into it, I think, and that can be a good way to develop as well and evolve.
As an
Yeah.
Australian with Australia at the time when you were playing, I guess we're renowned for running rugby, Randwick, very sort of flat attack,
Yes.
very, very oriented on keeping the ball in hand and moving it. And then you get to England. How did you try and do that style with the team that you had, or were there cultural differences with the English? Give it number 10 and boot it as far as you can and follow.
Huge cultural differences and strengths as well. So I learn a lot of strengths and come to appreciate a lot of strengths around, particularly in England, around game management, timeline, scoreline. Because the reality is, sometimes in England often you've got cup games where you just got to win, and then you might have promotion relegation games that means so much to the club either way. If you're challenging for promotion, the huge differences, and then to get relegated is a big thing as well. So then you got all the weather conditions there, so all these things that you experience without realizing, just through association. You know, the winter, and then the summer, the wind, home and away, great, and the sheer amount of games, great grounding for the coaching. But I think getting back to what you said as well, like Moringa, we were a very, very fit team and quite abrasive. Not saying that I was abrasive, but I was fit. But they were very, very abrasive. And we kicking game, and it was good, probably more akin to England, but it worked for us, and a very good club spirit. Randwick, so we did a lot of running on our own, just up and down the field, etc. And then at Randwick, though, no fitness, just all games. So again, probably implicitly, without realizing, training would just start, and the people will tell you the same thing. First 4 people there start a game, similar to backyard when I was growing up little. 2 on 2, 3 on 2, 3 on 3, and it'd build up to about, when it gets more than 15v15, they'd start 2 games, and this used to go on for 45 minutes, and then you'd play more games in training, and then do some oppose, which again is another big good thing, split into your teams, but it's always against defense, like say attack defense. So you got the pressure of that. It was actually really good. I don't know thing. So
Were you there? The Ellis there when you were there?
Yep, all them players. There's only a few of us that didn't play for Australia, which was ironically myself, Michael Checker, Eddie Jones. So there were a couple of us 3 that didn't play for Australia, and all international coaches with the Wallabies. But yeah, so that they just had a total self-belief and a way of playing at that period of time, which was running the ball, playing to space. It was wonderful to be a part of that, as it was with Moringa for different reasons. So again, that helped shape my coaching, that there's no one way. Going to England helped it as well, when you just got a thing. There was one game at Stourbridge because I was playing number 10 there. It was a low level, so I was going okay at 10, but the John Shaw, who was the president of the club and the front rower, before one scrum, he turned around to me and said, "Jim, can you effing kick this ball out? We need a rest." And I said, "No." And we got to run. So there was a bit of a few cultural things, but even they still talk about it now, which again brings me some joy. I gave a lot, but I got more out of them, because they taught me another side of rugby, about it's the fellowship and bringing people together, as all sport should be. That stuck with me, even when coaching 5-year-olds or 10-year-olds, or it should bring people together. But yeah, some good experiences there.
I wouldn't.
Oh, go on, Martin.
No, it's just a silly comment. I was going to say I wouldn't mind watching some of them Randwick training sessions. I bet they're better than watching games.
Yeah, well, there was iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
Which is the thing Brad Thorne used to say, and it's true actually. But it was first graders training with 6th graders, but all is similar. When I think about it, McQueen and at Moringa, we had a clear playing philosophy and what we're about as a club, a vision. A very, very good and smart man about setting the whole thing up, and we're all pulling in the same direction, so you felt a part of the club. Randwick was just very clear playing philosophy, so players could move up and down grades, and there was a clear intent about how we're going to play. So when I think about it, it was they're ahead of their time really, but both very successful.
Yeah. So just just for the listener, Jim, just tell us your club to club journey, just so people know at the different levels you've played at, and
Right.
any little insights at what you learned at each of them.
Yeah. Well, the coaching side was in England, a couple of years in Norfolk, and then had the opportunity to go to Henley-on-Thames. Henley, I was there 3 seasons, 2 seasons, terrific, and very, very good club. We wanted to be the best semi-professional club in England, which we achieved 2 years in a row. But like I said, the 3rd year we got relegated, and I have to take responsibility for that, because I was director of rugby. coaching. Some wonderful people there, but I failed to acknowledge or recognise I wasn't attentive enough to, we'd lost a few players, and I was just naive to think that we would still get the same results. And then also during the season when we had a bad start, I'd never experienced that before, so I didn't really have enough knowledge or experience to how to adapt or how to change. So, or what to do, to be honest. I saw a different side of how people can react under pressure and when we're losing, and yeah. But so at the end of the season, no job. And then I ended up picking up a part-time job at a club called Birmingham. But I consciously decided to become a student of the game and invest in myself. And so there I watched rugby during the days, and went and visited premiership clubs and just observed and listened and looked. And then following that, I had the opportunity to go to Oral, which was Wigan. And that was my first full-time job with full-time players. I thought it was wonderful. The partner I was seeing at the time didn't think it was so wonderful trying to move from Henley-on-Thames to Wigan. Bless her soul.
The rent will be cheaper.
Yeah. So bless her soul. And again, I wasn't attentive enough, and not for the first time around that in that space, around the implications and risks associated when you actually move and relocate. But I was work-wise, it was wonderful to be around in that environment. After one season there, the owner had a change of direction. Guy called Dave Whelan, and lost the ambition and took the funding out. And so a bunch of us went to Rotherham Rugby Club, and in the space of 12 months, they went into administration. So there was two hits there within the space of a short time. Again, another huge setback, and it's like, okay, what happens? So I had a lifeline at Cornish Pirates, and had 4 wonderful years down there at Cornish Pirates. Celtic, passionate, and it was an area I really connected with and intrinsically felt belonged on and off the field. So, and that was
a surfboard down there as well, wouldn't you?
Yes, yeah, living in Newquay, Cornwall, and the community, they're slow to warm, but I felt a big part of that by the time, quite quickly, and then certainly by the time I left, it was with tears. But yeah, incredible experience down there, the Cornish Pirates. Some great memories and some great learnings. There I worked with an owner. I was director of rugby, director of coaching. But there was an owner, and probably my big lessons there. Well, the other 2 lessons were the stuff happens out of your control. But certainly down at Cornwall, I probably failed to manage upwards. I'm responsible for the rugby program. So you need to get on with the boards, the committees, the owners in this instance well, and have good communication to get what your rugby program needs. So yeah, it was a tricky time to navigate, and they're still actually quite tricky down there as well, in the sense that trying to match up their ambition with stadiums, etc. So in that space, it's still the same. But yeah, great memories and great learnings as well down there. It was a connected club and a connected group of people and supporters. So you buy into, I like Liverpool in England, the soccer team, with like you connect identity with the fans, what they want. It's very clear, the way of playing, and everyone knows it, and that's just what you got to do. These teams that keep changing all the time through coaches or something, you can get confused. But clubs like Liverpool, when I was at Pirates, very clear how we're playing and what we're about and who we represent, for a better word, really. Then I had the opportunity to go to Leicester Tigers as academy coach. And I think at this point it's worth talking about the difference between development coaching and performance coaching. But I've always looked at that as development coaching, wherever you are, and try and improve the team and through the players. And then through that, I think you'll get results. That's just been my take on it. I never played for Australia, but I like trying to help people try and reach their dreams. So okay, how do you want to get better, Ian? How do you want to get better, Matthew? Let's get a plan going. I'll work with you and let's help you. And that's kind of my drive, and I've always has been. But Leicester was a great opportunity to. Our academy was development focused, well resourced, some very good players there. The Manu Tuilangis, the George Fords, and all these guys, but very well resourced, but a lot of science behind it as well. It was really, really good. And we had a playing program to support our development program. So it allowed me to not so much experiment, but just pure development, which was just outstanding. So yeah, good opportunity there. But again, it was pretty tough leaving Cornwall. I was pretty unbalanced, but I threw everything into my career and I still had this dream of coaching Australia. And then off the back of that, I thought Leicester was a breakthrough. 9 years I'd been in that championship, trying to get in the premiership with, I think, 5 different clubs for various different reasons. You know, couldn't quite get there, but 9 seasons of grounding, rich experiences and different things. And then to go to Leicester Tigers, who could be deemed the biggest club in England at the time, that was certainly a breakthrough. And then off the back of that, Ewan McKenzie, who I'm very grateful for as well. You know, we worked together for 6 years, long days, but he was going to take the head coach job at Queensland Reds, and so he'd seen my track record about kind of taking clubs from where they were to the highest they'd been. So that was quite a good fit for Queensland at the time. And we had 4 terrific years there. And then on the back of that, we had I was meant to go back to Cornwall after 2 years, but on the back of our success at Queensland, we had 4 years there. And then we had the 2 years of well, look, you're going to coach Australia now. So so that was what happened. And we did that for 2 years. And guess what? That ended as well. Kind of out of my control, and quite a lot of the other staff also. So stuff happens.
When you got into
what a life in rugby. So I know it's not over, but yeah, wow. Jim, just I'd like to, if it's okay, move on in a minute. Just to, and you've sort of weaved this in a little bit already, but you've spoken about condition games and all these sort of things, and we'll jump onto your research
Yes.
in a sec. But could you just, what you've sort of, at the end there, you sort of said, you know, you I suppose what attracted you and Mackenzie to you and how you could help Queensland Reds was your sort of grounding in taking clubs from a certain position and elevating them up leagues and all the rest of it. And I know, look, I know this question it could be considered quite naive because there's loads of things that contribute to that. But from a coach's perspective, what would you say, maybe 2 or 3 principles that have really driven that acceleration of a club's performance, just for any coaches listening in any sport?
Yeah, I think the Reds, when I went to the Reds, I suddenly had all this access to data, like statistics and data was all there. So, and before I was just used to watch the TV and do your own statistics and stuff like that, or how many line outs and won and lost, etc. So you get all this reams of data, evidence at the Super Rugby. So, so having privy to that was good. So, but what that interested me was like, so I was the attack coach, and the coach coordinator. But so from the data, I tried to work out what stood out to me is how do we get the ball? So at the time it was 50, it's about still the same, 50 times a game, your team will get the ball on average. And then, so how do you get it? And so we worked out, I mean, I looked at, got scrum line out, which could be deemed players as static. So it's like a structured situation. So you get structured possession, and then the unstructured possession is more from kicks or turnover. Like, for example, a mistake. On the weekend, there was quite a few tries from transitions from attack and defence in the England games. But anyway, so it was 57% from unstructured possessions, and then it was 43% from structured. But our training typically doesn't reflect that at all. So the coaches will want to do, you know, high percentage of structured practice. So we started. So I thought, well, our training needs to reflect more closely the game. And so when we did, attack coaching, there's two things. I'd balance it to more reflect the game. So we do some from lineouts, but if the lineout didn't go perfectly, like play on, or if there was a transition like a kick or a mistake, play on. Because why? Because that's a huge part of your possession. So we got, and then also you need cooperation then with your other coaches to work together. That's the forwards coach, the defense coach, and the strength and conditioning coach, which I'll come to in a minute. So if you can inoculate the players and the coaches to along this lines of thinking, that was one of the things that we did at the Reds. Like if there was a line break, play on. If there was a mistake, play on. Because guess what? That's what happens in the game. So instinctively, the players knew, and we had policies around what we were looking to do either side of the ball from these transitions. So that was a huge thing. So people now call it like the game model. Things come in, attack, defense, and then the transitions. But we back in 2009, that's how we trained, and a lot of game-based stuff as well. So we'd start unorganized and then try and get some self-organized, get the players to be coordinated together to self-organize. So we only had a few cues around things, and we had some policies and principles, but our training just reflected the game more. So that led on to us developing a base game, a framework to play, really simple, based on the principles of the game. But then we got to the stage where that was our game. We got good at it, but we could just strategically tweak it when we were playing different teams. So some great examples there, and the boys still refer to it. We were playing the Bulls, the Stormers away in Cape Town, and we knew that they kicked it out all the time, love lineouts and whatever. So we only go one phase, and we kick it down their end, and then they'd get it, win the lineout, kick it back. And then we'd know we'd get it, and we one phase, kick it back. So the whole game was played in their half. We only won 13-8, but we won that whole game. Next week, we're playing the Bulls at home, the South African team, and they love lineouts and structure. So we didn't do any lineouts, all quick taps, and we never kicked the ball out, and we just completely run them off their feet. So we had our base game and framework with some rules and policies built on principles, but also we had the strategic side that we could slightly adapt, and the players really bought into that, and they loved it. So you're playing against teams from New Zealand, South Africa, and Australia. It was a good period of time for us.
Brilliant. I think it's worth mentioning now as well. I hope this doesn't embarrass you, Jim, but you've actually written about this in a published paper. So in the International Sport Coaching Journal, and the title of the paper is "Practicing Unstructured Play in Team Ball Sports, a Rugby Union Example." I actually used to use this paper on a module that I used to teach at Hallam as the start task for students. So I'd say, right. And essentially, just a bit of background, the module was about it was called Scientific Applications in Coaching. So the start task would be read the paper and unpack that, and let's understand how the coach, you, have done that. They've used scientific principles. So I know you talk about constraints-led approach, ecological dynamics, are you using performance analysis, and then we base the assessment and the work through that module on this paper. So I know you're talking about it as if it's just how you go about things, but it's had a real impact on lots of students, and not just in rugby but across different sports. So yeah, great paper, and I think it's just worth mentioning that, which I think what you were talking about before is the principle. So training. So in training, you develop some essential principles, struggling to get my words out, it's early on a Monday, around self-organisation, adaptation, communication, competitiveness. And there's some great insights there that I think are really important for any coach coaching of any sport, even if it's an individual sport, you know, quite a close sport. So I would urge people, and we'll put a link in the show notes to that paper as well. So yeah, I mean, that was a real sort of real impactful paper for me in terms of helping me with my coaching and understanding as well. How you can, you know, if you use insights to understand the game. Because I'm just thinking, when I used to play rugby union, you'd spend at least half the session. I was an outside back, so I'd spend at least half the session waiting to receive a ball off a line out or off a scrum, often unopposed as well. But you know, like you were saying, if you're only receiving 40% of the time from that situation, you're missing a big part of the game. You're not experiencing what you might be experiencing on the weekend. So yeah, really, really useful.
Yeah, I think thanks for. I mean, the paper, gee, it was hard work trying to write something. The lady I wrote it with, Dr. Donna O'Connor,
Yeah.
I don't know if she regrets it or not, but it took us a long time and a lot of patience, particularly from her part. But that was a purpose, to try and assist or help others. But I'll come back to the study in a sec. But with the Reds training, particularly, we got to a space where sometimes we'd practice against like we'd be practicing a concept of play, say it's attacking the 22, but I just put different constraints around the practice. So by that I mean, sometimes I'd kick the ball to us, or sometimes I'd throw it up in the air and just say, or throw it to anyone, and we'd start from there. So, but the outcome was still trying to score a try, but there was never the same way of achieving that. So they had to discover, speaking in a bit of the academic term, discover, explore, or be coordinated together. But in layman's terms, in coaching terms, just find a bloody way to get the ball over the line. But they by doing it enough, they just get, without me saying you have to go here and here, they would just be based on cues or where the defense was, and the affordances, shall we say, which was where the opportunities was. So then you need the communication to do that, and the skill execution as well. But as we got better, I'd make things harder. So sometimes, for example, it's 15 on 15 in a game, but sometimes I put 17 or 18 defenders in and bring it out. But the players, I remember a guy called Will Genya and Quade Cooper at the time, they said there's nothing happening. There's nothing on, or nothing. How do we? It's too hard. And I say, well, find a way. Like, have a chat. So you give them a little bit of a chat, and then so eventually, through fatigue or someone making an error, then would be opportunity. So it was great, and having that autonomy to organise practice, and again with the cooperation of the defence coach, you could manipulate it to make things harder or different. You keep a score, all that stuff. So it was a really good period of time where you could experiment, and there was good trust from the head coach as well.
Yeah. What I love there is, and I know Rick Shuttleworth used to show a video of, I think it was a New Zealand or Australian coach working with the England team, and his approach was, I'll just work. It was about rucking, I think, and it was like, work it out. And the point of the video is the players were then lost. They were just staring at each other like, oh, well, what do you think? And he's going, no, I want you to work it out. And I think that is so crucial, you know, for players, more autonomy, tuning into what's going on. And I mean, look where it got Will Genya and Quade Cooper. It didn't work out too bad for them, did it, that approach?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, at any level, we're not on the field, you know, so it's quite a unique sort of occupation where you're actually not on the field. So you got to prepare them as best you can. And then you form them relationships. So, you know, when we lost a couple of games, it was such a great opportunity to, when I say, what did you learn from that? because the teams start challenging you in different ways, and they built up this knowledge around how to get around things or to where to look for. But definitely you need a clear way of playing built based on principles, and then and then with that have good role clarity, but not so much that it actually restricts you how to play, but you can go back to them things, and within that there'll be opportunities. So you need some sort of order, but not so much where it restricts you. Yeah. So
where did you come across constraints or ecological dynamics, Jim? Because I know we talked quite a lot about it. So where did it come from?
yeah, well, that was just there's two things that came by default, really, by coaching all these different levels. If the training wasn't, I think the game's the best teacher and the players. Like I said before, if we lost a game at the Reds, the boys, we'd chat about it. It was a great opportunity to grow and get better and move along together. But if you do an activity, now that's the other thing. You can do an activity one week and then do it the same one the next week, but get a different. So
Yep.
when you're a novice or when you're just learning, and I was the same, you're just kind of rigid and you might tend to get frustrated, yell, and what's going on? You blokes did this last week. You can't even do it this week, or you got worse, and then sometimes you just learn through experience. You might go away from it, something else, and then come back, or let the players have a chat to give them some ownership, or the constraint side of it, you'll manipulate the practice by, for example, making it wider, taking out less defenders or more defenders, depending on what you're trying to get out of it. So I think through experience, you learn how to manipulate and what to look for to get your result, or when to intervene or when not to intervene, and just let it go. But to answer your question, when I went to university, I was 40 actually, and I had didn't finish school, and so I went to university at Sydney. A guy called Neil McCarthy, who now works for the RFU, he encouraged me to go to university and do some study. So I did, and that was at Leicester. The other jobs, you're kind of too busy. All the other jobs I had, I was just head in the ring, working, and worked long hours and just trying to get the club going and giving everything. Quite unbalanced when I reflect back, but it didn't allow me to step back and reflect and try and look at my coaching. At Leicester Tigers, it allowed me to really think about how I coached, and that coincided with going to university. So I had this 15 years of experience, but university was wonderful. I loved it. Mum used to go down and register for me, bless her. And then I'd come and do the courses, and Donna was an excellent facilitator. And there was a real open, free environment whereby different sports. So straight away, you're not, which again, I've learnt that doesn't matter anyway, about sharing stuff or people seeing how you coach. But there was more free because they're from different sports like horse trainers or swimming and hockey, soccer, rugby league, rugby union. Great environment. She set a really good environment in the classroom. But then I started learning these terms like constraints-led approach. That was a good one. I go, yeah, that's what I think I do. And that helps explain it. So I could talk that lingo. And then the dynamic systems theory, that was just like, that was great. Like, because I thought self-organize and people together, working together. I thought, yeah, that's how it's meant to be. So that was a great, how I could describe how I coach, but it made me understand more, appreciate why I coach the way I do. And it just, I actually did that courses because I thought, well, what the heck am I going to do? I've got no qualifications, just this rugby experience. And I thought I'd better get some qualifications if I need a job one day, but it just helped my coaching so much. And it was just amazing. So that's how I kind of, it just accelerated the benefit of, I could see that theory, how it works and applied. So when I did the masters, I didn't find it easy because the writing was hard. I had to get myself a tutor how to write, but the stuff I just knew and could grasp because I felt, yep, I agree with that. Yep, that's how that works. And yeah, whereas fast track to now, I'm 58 now, and I'm doing a diploma in counselling, and I've never as such done work as a counsellor, but I find it really difficult because I'm trying to answer the questions what they think that I should be answering. Whereas with the coaching one, I've just no, yeah, and I could write quite easily. So I guess that leads me to how the coaches of you might do a course, or you might see Matt, someone watches you how you coach, or you watch someone and you go, okay, that's what I got to do. But it's like a recipe. You've got that thing, and when you do it, it'll be different to your environment or in context. So that's the bit that people don't kind of realize. And then, like I said before, you want to do an activity rather, I don't call them drills, but more activities. And then you do an activity and you get frustrated because it's not working and you're blaming everyone else and all that. But the art is bringing that activity to life or in the context to make it work. Probably rushed that bit of explanation.
Yeah, no. If I may, Jim, as well, again, not to embarrass you, but on another paper you've also published, I'll read it out. An ecological insight into the design and integration of attacking principles of playing professional rugby union, a case study. So just this is what so it's an excerpt from this paper, and I'll quote, but this is what an ex-international rugby union player thinks of your coaching. So there is a little bit, but my understanding of Jim's philosophy on attack was to create organised chaos among the already chaotic nature of rugby. Predominantly, we would play 15v15 in game-like scenarios, replicating the chaotic nature of a game. Often, Jim would introduce extra defenders and we would play 15v16 or 17 to overload the defence, or sometimes we would reduce the width of the field. The pressure was on the players and key game drivers to implement our game style and execute it under the same or greater pressure than we would face in a game. It prepared us incredibly well for games. So
yeah,
I think that's a pretty compelling insight from an ex-international. Yeah, so
yeah.
yeah.
Thanks for reading that. That was Will Genya. But I had a close relationship with them because we when we went there, they weren't going so well. So I think we had four Wallabies, and then after the fourth season, we had 22. But that was due to the head coach and all the other staff involved as well, all of us. But we grew together. So it was also talking about coaching journey. Sometimes you can have a good timing, and then also it's just a good timing where you go somewhere and with a good group of people as well. And I was fortunate there that I think both of them things, we were hungry players, hungry staff. I felt as though I was been preparing for about 15 years for that opportunity. So, lots of energy and enthusiasm, and you want to get it right really. And you've had these experiences beforehand, so that have helped equip you for that particular time.
Jim, what I'm curious, so I'll just give it a bit of context. So, I mean, this is the sort of way I would coach anyway, but I used to coach, I suppose, where I cut my teeth coaching was with the Loughborough students team.
Yeah.
And then I went to work for a team called Coventry Bears that's now called the Midlands Hurricanes. Actually, Coventry, Cornwall have got a franchise in that league, in League One. Yeah, so they've got a rugby league franchise now.
Okay.
Anyway, so there's a massive jump in the level of players. So I'm just thinking that when you mentioned, so it's not any old ex-international, it's Will Genya, who, for people that don't know rugby union, is a top player. I'm just curious, like, so you're using games with all these teams. You spoke about Orrell and Norwich and Starbridge. What was the jump like using this approach? And then all of a sudden you're working with, like, I mean, the best of the best, Will Genya, Quade Cooper, and you're playing game based. I'm just trying to imagine that. And you've probably got now players that will be in the game and working your game out. So you're like, oh
Yeah.
God, what's the difference there? So I suppose it's like going from driving a mini metro to a Ferrari in
Yeah,
a polite analogy.
yeah. No, it is an analogy, and it's the same as when you go up the things, but also when you go down the other way as well. I mean, currently I'm coaching Noosa, which is grassroots community, totally amateur. So again, it's you got to adapt and know the context. But I think that the 9 years in England in that championship, there's some bloody good teams there, and they were very, very good at different things. Teams like Plymouth at the time were very good at mauling, like outstanding. Other teams were good at different things as well. So all these rich experiences that you gain, I think, just equip you. But I was really clear around a game that I knew had worked, training settings that had worked as well. But you're right, though, there was that nervousness, but I think you get nervous because you care and you want to get it right. But it was quite a clean sheet of paper as well. So it was quite a good timing and opportunity. This is how we're going to play as a principle, because we needed to, at the time, Queensland, which I think as well, you got to enjoy it and you got to inspire. So we could design a game where we win 6-0 or 9-3, but even at any level, the kids or develop, you've got to enjoy it. You've got to look forward to look forward to playing. And then when people watch, they've got to see something. So that's what I think is really important. So what does that look like for us? We had this game that was based on a positive attack. But in saying that, we had a really clear base game framework. So really clear policies and principles. But that was our guide. But we were trying to outwork the defense, and it was based on principles of play, not strict, rigid, sequential sort of patterns. And the other thing with having it too structured, it's subjective whether it's too structured or not, but it impacts a lot on your training time, trying to get that implemented. Whereas, like I said, we played small-sided games and other games, and then how we described earlier around closer represent the game. And guess what? You make it competitive as well. Even young kids, they like keeping a score. What's the score? And then they want to know. And then even our guys at training, Brad Thorne was good for this as well, and a reminder. That was my second stint at the Reds. But we keep a score. Like, make it competitive. Who's the winner and loser? So you get used to that competitive side of things as well. But yeah, I was nervous there going to the Reds, but it was a great opportunity because they hadn't been going so well. So I think it was good timing, and we grew the thing together with the players. That for me was the most powerful thing.
I mean, I just moved over to Queensland around 2007. So I saw all that in action, and it captured the town, didn't it, or the city.
Yeah.
And it sold Suncorp out,
Yeah.
which only at the time, not many teams were selling Suncorp out. The Broncos, can't remember whether the Broncos,
Yeah.
not that.
No, you're right. Off the field, I think we had been averaging 11,000, and then we ended averaging 35,000 people. So, but again, you inspire. You're playing who you're representing in a way of playing, and we grew the thing together. But we had that strategy side as well. It was a really good time.
Again, when you talk about the competitiveness of them, you kept the score. Was that enough for these guys? Like, I'd imagine they were massively competitive beasts. So even in training, it was about we got to win. You didn't have to put any extra incentives on that, or punishments or rewards or anything. Was that enough?
No. Well, sometimes the defense wins or the attack, or it was not all the time. Depends what you're trying to get out of training or practice. But if you can keep a score, you got a certain time. We used to do scenarios, and but mainly just trying to principles of play in different areas. And so we'd mix up how we got the ball. So sometimes we'd just start our attack from kicks, and I'd work out which team we're playing, what type of kicks we anticipate, getting that week. And then you work out, because the variances in the teams is quite large. And again, that comes back to the data. So you do your homework. That's probably what I come back to as well. I think when you're learning as a coach and even different things, you'll look at an activity. Like when I went to, when I didn't have the job after Henley, I went and watched London Irish and different clubs, but I'd look at an activity and go, oh, that looks unreal. But I'd go back to do it in my club and I'd write down exactly how many people and what the rules were and what they did and how it worked and how long, and, you know, which is fine. But there'd be two things. Often it wouldn't work as well in my context, whether it was higher or lower level. And also you got to work out, are you teaching a drill or are you teaching something that's going to help your team at that particular time? So when you're learning, but, you know, I'd coached then at that stage for 8 years, but I'm still kind of copying but when I think back, why, or what is it relative to what my team needs now? But I guess that's how you learn when you're going through. You look at things and you got to make it relative to your team, where they're at that particular time, or what they need. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
Completely, yeah. Very good.
Yeah, the other thing worth talking about is the skill side, positional skill, which I love, and the actual core skills. Sometimes we practice too much and too many things and you end up with mediocrity, but just try and get better at a couple of things. Fun's got to be in there. Obviously winning's fun, but you have to enjoy your environment you create at any level. Most of us, 95% are community amateur. So I think that's got to be a pretty important bit. But the skill side is, and again, without realizing it, but when I think back, I used to help players with passing or tackling or whatever, some of the basics, and have a few rules around that. But through all the games, implicitly, they'd just kind of evolve without me realizing it. I couldn't measure but the teams I was involved with, they just played and they could pass and support just as a like, I think in England soccer they call it one-touch pass or something. But then by the games they get the decision-making element, like rather than just, yes, you got to be able to pass, so your technique's got to hold out, but within a game you got the decision-making coming back to the tactical periodization, I guess. And so you're practicing all these things without realizing it, but they got to be able to see stuff and then do stuff in a game context, rather than just the skill. But it is a balance. So,
how much time would you say you spent doing correcting technique, or if you did, how did you go about correcting technique with these, you know, elite players or whatever?
Yeah, well, again, that's another thing around. It depends on your context. I guess we're talking here to quite a wide audience and different levels and age groups, so it depends on your context. But and where you're at in the season, the purpose of your training session. But I like the whole analogy. If we play a game, but then you might break out into skill stations and then come back into the game. So that's one way of doing it. So the skill work is really, really important. So like a martial artist, left jab, right jab, you got to do that, but then you got to put it into context of a game. But I think it's there is no doubt the leading players, like I mentioned, Cooper, Genya, Brad Thorne, all these guys, and I hear about Ivan Cleary. These names may not mean anything to the people listening, but I've been watching some of them basketball documentaries. Like they have a program with the strength and conditioning, but there's no doubt these leading players invest a lot of their time getting better on their own. So whether that's before training, after training, or out of training. So we design training for say 30 people at any level. Some of us, like Matthew, it might be too easy for you because you're higher standard. For me, it might be too challenging. Ian, it might be good for you, you know. So I think that there has to be somewhere in there where people can top up or do a bit more, or other guys might need to rest. But definitely the one common thing with the top players, they will spend time before or after on their own getting better.
Yeah. Yeah. And they've got that desire, that mindset.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Brilliant.
yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
go on then, Martin?
I was just going to say, I think Jim's spot on about it's got to be context dependent. I mean, I've been through a pathway in rugby league quite a few years back now where there was a massive focus on core skills, which I understand, you know, you might need to, there's things that you need to be able to do in the game, for example, pass, catch, tackle, kick, run. But it was delivered mainly in devoid of any game context. And I think that was a big problem. Whereas we're seeing a lot different players now that are coming through a different pathway. So, yeah, I think that's really important. And however you manage that as a coach, I mean, there is ways you can do that. But yeah, I think that's spot on. What I find as well, I think the key term is self-organisation. The more opportunities players get through in training to experience game-like situations, and again, these might be biased observations, well, they are biased observations, but I do think players start to work out ways and understand their capabilities in those game situations. So if you're trying to forge, so in rugby league, for example, like a left centre, left wing combination, or left back rower, left centre. Do you know what I mean? They work things out together over time, but they need those opportunities, not do from the coach, do this, do that, do the other. Like you were saying, right, we'll work it out. How can we work things out together? And I do think if you have enough time, you know, irrespective of we'll call it skill capabilities, they do work a way forward where they can be, you know, synergistic together to beat the opposition. So that's maybe another way of thinking about it. But yeah, definitely context dependent skill development is important, sure.
Yeah, that synergy between players.
Yeah.
Really, really important. But again, one thing I find that the development coaching, and so say when you coach Queensland or, you know, the premiership or international, your lead-in time is shorter, and the scrutiny is higher. So you need to get results like quite quickly to almost buy yourself time. And I guess the English Premier League is a good example of that as well. So, but I think I've just always done, if I can get the players better and get the team better, we'll get the results. But at the same time, you need to get them results to give yourself more time in there, the higher level. I think you're right. Getting back to your point around the core skills, yeah, crucial. And then in different sports, a lot of them position specific as well. So yeah, devote. I know Sam Vesti at Northampton at the moment is they actually, so you got a certain amount of minutes, and then you work out, is it team, unit, or individual. So it's just really a pie graph that's where you want to invest time, or where do you think best invested time. But again, I think it's contextually to where your team's at. Different stages of the season, and that just comes with your experience and attentive behaviours. Like, do they need a rest? Do they need more? Do some players need more? Your program that you design, as I said before, might be too much for player A, not enough for player C, and just right for player B. So there has to be some space in there for the adjustments. And guess what? In professional, we got selection or contracts. So you do need to somehow find a space to get better. That's where I find the advent of GPS. Probably, I was at the Reds 2009 to 13, and then I come back again 2018 to 22, and the influence of the strength and conditioning, who incidentally is the same really very good friend of mine, but the influence of strength and conditioning is much. Ian, you'll probably know this from cricket, and Matthew maybe rugby league as well. But yeah, that's become quite more prominent, shall we say, and trying to represent the game through the GPS. But
I think it's a problem in not. I don't think this was at the Reds, but I heard some stories from rugby union where you're only allowed to do a certain number of high-speed minutes as a forward.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the All Blacks don't stick to those schedules.
Yeah.
It's a real contentious point, Jim. I work with football or soccer players over here in England, and you'll always, the same term comes out. Oh, the S&C stop this. The S&C say we can't do that. I mean, it's not. I'm not pointing sides at any. I think what we need better integration. So on a call like this, okay, the S&C. Well, my personal opinion, actually, and I really was listening when you were talking about a game model. I think it all stems from the game model. So if you're coaching Randwick, which is very, I believe it was very fat, flash, really aggressive type way of playing and probably defending, then that requires a certain type of strength and conditioning to get players that can, better acceleration or whatever it might be. So we're now integrating what we're trying to do from a game perspective, and then the S&C is they're complementing each other. So I just think we need there needs to be better conversations between staff to really sort of focus in on how we can help each other, not bloody hell it's S&C but stopping things. But yeah, get your point with the GPS. It's bonkers. So they've done the minutes, off you come. It's just not the game, is it?
No, and like I say, the best players will do more in their own way to get better. And who are we to say that you've done enough? Or and it's a profile of your group. It's a lot of things there. I think it comes back to the data can be really informative and assist us. And there's some great stuff you can take from all that. But I don't think it should run the program, but it can certainly guide the program. But the relationships with that is very important. So
I think your 2018 paper demonstrates how data can be used to inform practice. That's a great example of that. Not data driven, but data informed.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. I mean, and then being the head coach and assistant coach, that can influence things as well a lot. So when you're the assistant coach, you've only got a certain amount of I was lucky the first time at the Reds. Ewan let me run attack and also working together with the strength and conditioning coach. But I was the coach coordinator, so you can design it in a way that is good. But then if you're an assistant coach, sometimes sometimes you're trying to find the right words, but it's a very different to being the head coach to assistant coach, and the people you work with. So that can work well for you or not so well. It have its different challenges and opportunities, shall I say. But then it becomes very relationship based as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I reckon we probably ought to start wrapping up and let Jim go and have his dinner. Is there anything that we missed that you'd like to talk about, or any final sort of comments that you'd share with that other coaches and practitioners could benefit from?
Yeah, just you get the like coaching courses, or you see an activity, but so say for example, recently I've got a dear little boy I'm very close to, and his mum. He's 6 years old. So I had to step in. So I've got all this experience, 30 years experience, and I had to step in and coach the under sixes down at Jeeps in Brisbane. And okay, so it'd been a long, long time since I'd ever done anything like that. So I looked up some activities. What do they like? How does that work? Had all my stuff and planned. I wanted to get it right because I mean I love him, but I wanted to get it right and do it well for the kids. So I looked up the websites and all that. And then, so that's what I was like a novice, but I had this things to do. Like, so I'd been there 5 minutes and it's just chaos and out the window. And I thought, okay, bloody hell. And then, but some things actually worked as well.
Yeah.
Some didn't work, some worked. And overall, the parents said, you did really good, Jim. Like, that was all right. And the kids kind of enjoyed it. So I went away and reflected and go, okay, what worked, what didn't, why it didn't, and I guess that's how you learn. So, so you can't use the, if you stay too rigid and prescriptive, like that can be a good strength when you're just learning, but at some point it can be restrict you as well to grow. And kind of don't be afraid to try things, and it's not all going to work. But if you've got the right intent, the players see that you care. And then and away you go. And you got to enjoy it. You creating the environment where you're enjoying it and the interaction and trying to grow at whatever level. I think it's quite essential as far as sports concerned, and some of the values it can teach you as well.
Brilliant. Well, that's wonderful. Thanks, Jim.
Okay, pleasure.
Really enjoyed it.
I think, sorry, I was just going to say, like any coaches listening, maybe up and coming coaches, because we're always developing, but maybe quite young and you're just sort of getting into coaching. I think a key takeaway for me is quite clearly, again, I don't want to embarrass Jim, but there's no ego. Like an ex-international or Australian coach is coaching an under-6 group. Don't be afraid of that, and don't see it as a dent on your ego. Like, be humble enough to think, oh, look, I'm just going to embrace a lot of opportunities or different opportunities. I think it just helps your development so much. You know, because the communication with a 6-year-old is very different with an international level athlete. But I think having a range of communication styles and how you make things land and help things land, I think that's really crucial. So, yeah. I think it's a fantastic sort of outlook on life, Jim, really, and sport. Yeah, it's brilliant.
I mean, that summed Jim up, I think, for me, from my interactions with him, that like he values just as much and puts as much effort in coaching the under sixes or the Noosa team or the North Walsham. Like people who don't know where North Walsham is should go and have a look on a map of where it is and how big it is.
Yeah.
Or whether you're coaching the Reds or the Wallabies, you're invested in that. You give everything to that, and you see it just as much as a challenge, whatever, to try and do the best for. I would describe you as a servant coach almost, in terms of you're there for the players, you're there for the people rather than yourself, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, you give. But the other ones worth talking about is Noosa, like. So I don't know if it's still recording, but it's worth probably touching on that because Noosa was I left the Reds, longest ever coach at the Reds, most games for Queensland, and then finding myself with no job again, but not prepared to move. So what does that look like? So connected to the community on the Sunshine Coast, and okay, let's coach Noosa Rugby Club. And bloody challenging, frustrating, but really enjoyable, and finding a way to make it work and understand the club and the players and get them all to play together for each other to represent something. Bloody not easy. So it kind of takes all your experience and, I was more interested in what we did off the field and how we conducted ourselves. And I felt that we would end up getting results on the field, but that was a byproduct of what we did. But a great, like you said, there's no ego, just care about a club and who we play for and each other. And like a very frustrating, very challenging, but also very rewarding.
Also one of the most beautiful places in the world, and people pay fortunes to go there from
Yes.
all over the world. And we just happen to, well, Jim lives there, and we just
Yeah.
happen to be up the road from us. But you know, it's
Yeah.
one of the massive tourist spots in the world, isn't it? Noosa.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So
Incredible place. Yeah.
yeah. So
Wonderful. All right. Brilliant. I think that's fantastic. So we're wrapping up.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Matt,
Yeah,
yeah,
brilliant.
Matt,
Really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, great chatting with you. Thank you.
yeah. What are you doing now, Matt? You're at Loughborough still, or I looked you up a bit. You've done a Jeepers. You've done a bit.